All right, welcome everyone. We thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. I know everyone's busy, and we'll try to keep this as short as possible and to the point. I always like to start with just a quick overview of just throwing this isn't everything, but this is most of the general points to pay attention to as far as what's new in GibbsCAM 2026. I always like to break these up into groups such as general enhancements, and these are features that pretty much will affect everyone, regardless of which modules you have licensed of GibbsCAM. Pretty much everyone will be able to benefit from these items, and you see by our list that's definitely the largest group of enhancements. We also have some turning specific enhancements, mill specific enhancements, and some 5-axis that we'll take a look at. Okay, one other note before we get into these features that's important to know, and probably should let your IT people know if you have an IT group that manages your GibbsCAM installs. So starting in GibbsCAM 2026, we're going to revert back to the good old days where the install folder was in a program files Gibbs folder. And the same thing with the data that's in the program data Gibbs. So it will no longer use the Cambrio folder. I know we've changed this a couple times during our history, but for the longest time, the Gibbs folder was used, and hopefully this will stay this way from now on. So just please make note of that, because that will be a bit different for you. All right, so let's get going into some general enhancements. The first one I want to look at is solid body scale. So if you've noticed in the past, if you've gone to scale a solid or a sheet, the scale function would be grayed out. You would not be allowed to do that. So that's changed now. So you can scale between 0.02x to 50x range. If you exceed that range, it'll alert you. And all the original attributes of that solid are retained. You're just changing its dimensions. And the selected bodies, they're all adjusted relative to the origin of the active CS. So wherever your origin is on your active CS, that's going to be the point about which it's scaling. And we've also got an option to include or omit scaling in Z, which I'll show you, which will give you quite different results depending on what you're looking for. All right, so let's go over to GibbsCAM and we'll take a look at this function. So you can see in 2025, if I were to select this is what my scale would look like. It would be grayed out. If I go ahead and select a solid, I can now scale. And the first time here, we'll not include the Z. You see X and Y were scaled, but Z was not. Probably not what I'm looking for, but could be. But if I include the Z, this will be a uniform scale. Okay, so very simple, but a very welcome change in the software. Again, something that many people will be able to make use of. Our next enhancement is a new measure command. This is something I asked for quite some time ago, I was told, actually. So never give up in your requests. Keep sending them in. Might not happen as fast as you want, but we still keep them around and we're looking at them and we'll get them done. So this is a new measure command. So calculates min-max distance between entities or even groups of entities. What it's very useful for is selecting appropriate like cutting tool sizes. So we're going to look at the same impeller here. So when I deal with an impeller, first thing I have to know is, well, what size tool can I use? What can I fit like between a blade and a splitter? I have no idea. And until now, there really hasn't been an easy way to do that right within GibbsCAM. It supports points, lines, arcs, splines, solid and sheet faces, and also edges. And not only does it support all those, what's really nice, you can measure across different entity types. You don't have to go just face to face or edge to edge. You can mix and match and have multiples as well. So I'll show you that. So here's our new measure function. Let me reset these. So the simplest way to use this is to simply drag a marker. So we have two groups, a group A, group B. I'll drag an A there, and I'll drag a B over here. And here's our distance of 7.7 millimeters. These values will rotate or move along as you manipulate the model. Or if you want to pin it, it'll stay put. The other thing is when you're finished with the command, and you could go, do something else, modify, translate, or whatever, you come back within this session, this part, and bring the measure up. It's remembered your last settings, so it's still there for you to access. All right, so let's clear these out, and let's try something a little different. Now let's use, maybe on this side, we'll grab a couple of faces. Maybe I'm not sure which one is giving me my minimum condition, so I'll just pick any that I think apply. And over here, I'll go ahead and use that selection for A. And over here, maybe I'll grab just some edges. Again, different entity type, but it doesn't matter. Use selection, and here's my value. So it's quite a powerful function. Again, you can mix and match different types of geometry. You can have multiple entities within each set. So nice little utility here. It definitely fits the need that I specifically needed this for, which is to find distances when I'm dealing with parts like impellers. So okay. Another enhancement under modify is a new rotate command. So one of the limitations has always been in GibbsCAM with the rotate command is you can only rotate about Z. Well, what if you want to rotate about X or Y or some other axes? You were forced to create a new CS, and so you could rotate about its Z axis. Well, we no longer have to deal with that in 2026. So now we allow rotations around alternate axes. So you can see here HVD, horizontal, vertical, depth, XYZ, or a line, which can also be an edge, and I'll show you that momentarily. Also includes a direction preview, so that it clarifies, what you're rotating about and what direction. All right, so let me show you that. All right, so under modify, we have this new rotate command. So here we can pick our axes. So for instance, here, if we wanted to rotate about the y-axis, notice my preview here, kind of hard to see when I got it selected. It shows a yellow, basically axis highlight. and then my green rotation direction. So if I want to go 30 degrees, it's 30 degrees about Y, not about Z. Now, another nice thing, let's say I want to rotate about this edge. Now, this edge is not lined up to any of the major axes. So I want to use a line. It could be a physical line entity, but I'm lazy. I don't like to extract geometry when I don't need to or create geometry. So I'm just going to take this. I'm going to drag it on that edge. And you notice it lines up with this edge. It shows me the axis and what the direction is. And now it's rotated 30 degrees around that edge. Okay, so much more power than we used to have. We're not limited to just Z-axis anymore. I will probably use this like every day, probably. And my guess is it's exactly what we've been looking for. All right, our next feature, MDD Sorting Preferences. Now, if you have a smaller shop and you've got a handful of machines, not a big deal for you. So when you look in your document control dialog and you look at your list of machines, pretty easy to find them. But if you're a large manufacturing facility and you have many machines, or if you're like us at Gibbs, where we're always receiving parts, and every time we receive a part, it's pumping a new MDD in a list, and my list is a mile long, it can get a little hard to find what machine you're looking for because it's always been listed in machine complexity. A lot of people didn't know that because it didn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's what the algorithm it used was machine complexity. Well, now we have the ability to do it also alphabetically. Right, so if we look in our DCD, you can see that it starts being alphabetical, but then it'll repeat again, okay, because it's going by machine complexity. So all we need to do is go into preferences, and if you'd rather look at it alphabetically, you just change it here. And now you'll have, for instance, all my Akumas together, and it'll truly be in alphabetical order. So we've actually had a lot of people ask for that. So now you have it, those that have asked. Let me go ahead and switch this one back real quick. So I can lead on to our next item. And this is machine images. So this allows you to use a PNG or JPEG image file inside an MDD folder. It's actually external to it. It must have the same name as the MDD's file name. So if you're going to do this manually, you would make sure it had the exact same name, but it was the extension was PNG or JPG, and made sure it was in the correct folder alongside that file. But we have a nice drag and drop function that does this automatically. So that makes it easy, very easy on you. So to do this, I've got my DCD open. Over here where you can't see, I have this JPG file. And just to prove another point, this is not named the same name as the MDD file. So you remember in that slide I just showed you, the rule was, okay, it has to be the same name, which it does. But if you do it this way and you simply drag that file over, it does it for you. So now if I were going to program data or wherever my MDD files are, that file that I just dragged over would also be renamed to the same name as the MDD automatically. It does all the work for you. So adding them is just really as simple as picking the file you want, regardless of name, having your machine active and dragging it there. Now to remove it, you will need to go into your MDD folder if you wanted to change it or remove it or whatever. So you'd have to go into there manually in File Explorer and remove that. But for adding them, it's just very simple. It basically does all the work for you. Pick your file, drag it, it's done. Okay. So this is a very, useful thing. So you can actually take pictures of your machine on your floor, assign them to your MDDs, and as you're scrolling through, you'll just have a nice picture of that particular machine. All right, our next one is a change to shrink wrap. So I got a couple changes here. This is one that, there's not going to be a new button, and there's not going to be a new function or a change within the feature per se that you're going to select something. It's just going to do it. In this case, it really didn't do it correctly in certain cases, such as this part. So if you have a cylindrical stock, and if you look on the picture on the left here, you can see where the shrink wrap was basically going around that diameter. But because those lugs that are sticking out were not, I think if they were along the major axis, X or Y, it may have worked correctly, but because they're not, it doesn't know that, and it does not work correctly. So now in 2026, this will work correctly. And I can show you that real quick. And this is a real simple one. So this is a part from 2025. You can see where the stock is in the wrong place. So all I'm going to do is my control tilde shortcut. And now you see shrink wrap, put that in the correct place. Again, very simple change, but when you encounter this situation, it's a meaningful change. It's something that you want to be have control over, and it's very simple now. All right, our next one is a visual undo history. So we've now got a visual display list of available undo and redo actions. And the undo and redo buttons now have you'll notice that there's a little down arrow there. So hovering over the down arrow, you've got now a list, which you never had before. And you can do undo and redo multiple actions at one time without a repeated, Control Z, Control Y, or clicks of undo, redo. So if you have a list, I can scroll down that list and do multiples all in one shot, saying either undo or redo. So let's take a look at that one real quick. All right, so to show you this, I've just opened a file, so obviously I have nothing here, so I can't show you. So let me just quickly just do some model editing. We'll just do these one at a time to give us a significant amount here. And here, maybe we'll do like an offset. Okay, so we made some modifications to this model. So now when I hover over that down arrow, you'll see that I have a list of entries here. And they also describe what the function is, because without that, it would be a little useless because you don't know what you're doing. So as I just pull my mouse down over the list, it starts highlighting automatically. I don't have to click any buttons at this point. I just bring it down. So you see I offset the solid. I did my unstitch. So I can control as many of these as I want. So let's say I wanted to bring everything back except that first hole. So I'll just come down to here and click my mouse button. You now notice these holes are back, my offset's undone, but yet that hole is still there. And the same applies to the redo. So I could come back and maybe just do this one here. And we've taken another hole away. And if I want to just get rid of all of them, I'm back to where I was. Okay, so it's just basically a list of all your current actions that you can handle all at once. You can't go pick them out of order or anything. I know I've been asked that before, but it's just a way of if you've got 4 undos to go through and you're kind of guessing and you hit control Z until you think, oh yeah, that's where I want to be. There's no more guessing. So just scroll down your list. Yep, I want to undo to there. Click it and you're ready to go. So another nice feature for us there. Okay, so now we're going to get into some tooling enhancements. So we have a new tool usage indicator. So you'll see over here, there's a new button in the tool dialog. And if the tool is used in an operation, that'll show up. If it's not used in an operation, that will not be there. If you've modified the tool since you've done a redo, you haven't updated the ops, then it's going to put a red halo around it, and that's going to warn you that hey, you've made a change to this tool. Now maybe it was just a shaft length or something, and maybe it doesn't really affect the toolpath that's created in that op. So maybe it's not a big deal as far as you having to redo that. But we don't know, so we want you to make that decision. We just want to let you know that hey, something here's changed. You better just make sure and be careful. So it's a great tool for doing that. And then if we click the button, it opens up a list of ops used. So if you want to know, okay, well, tool's been changed, but how many ops did I use this in? Instead of you manually going through the list, we'll show them for you. Okay, so if we, as an example, we'll open tool 3. And maybe I'll just change the length out of holder. So now, first off, we had this here already, so that means the tool is used. Now that I've made this change, you notice I have a red halo. So that's warning me that, hey, you just made a change. You've got ops that are using this. You may think about doing a redo on these. So let's say I did want to do a redo. You can make that easier because if you click this, you can select the ones. This is telling you all the ops that it's using. So tool 3 is used in all these ops. So I just selected all from this list. And now if I want to select these ops here, it selects them all. And now, of course, I can right click and redo selected ops and just take care of all of them in one shot. So when you've got a bunch of tools and a bunch of operations, it's a much easier way to manage it if you have to change a tool to not only warn you, but let you go do something about it only on those ops that need it, but make it much easier to select those. Okay, and now while we're on this topic, we've made a little change to if you use tool lists, in the list view, we have a new list view mode that displays tools in a spreadsheet style. So over on the right is kind of what we've had, but you look below there, we've got like a spreadsheet style. This is read only for view and search, so you can't really edit your list from here, but it does allow you to sort by different columns, which helps you to, again, locate the tools you may want to use and import. And from that list, you can import the part and delete from the list via the right mouse button. So here, if I view edit tool list, let me just grab this one here. So this is my tool list. So I can sort by type or by diameter. So maybe I just wanted these finished end mills, that's it. So I could right click on those, import those into the part, or delete them from the tool list. So again, just adding a simpler way to pick the tools you want from the tool list to bring those into your part file. All right, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about some machine sim changes. We have a new time mode, which is basically proportional time. In the actual dialog, you'll see it's called by program time. So it basically is designed to render at the speed specified in the operation, and proportional is the main key here because it's going to depend on complexity and your computer and all that. But there's times where you've probably noticed that, you're looking at a simple like a turning op and it goes by too quickly. So then you slow everything down, but then the milling ops take too long. You got to speed them up. So this is designed to show you proportionally based on the feed rates you specified. And then we've been told that if we set the slider somewhere in the 40 to 50% range, it should be showing you about the same speed that you've got for a feed rate specified in the operation. We'll take a look at that. So in the settings now, this update control looks a little bit different. So now we just have one pull down and there's three options. So frames per second or by feature. So it would process one feature at a time. And then the new one is by program time. So let's just use like frames per second first, just to get an idea. Like if we put it, let me rewind it, put it kind of about 50% where it was telling us for the other mode, just to get a comparison. So I think like the rapid over is sometimes slower in this mode. And then let's go change it over to the program time mode. So, it's like the rapid comes in more like a rapid, and now this is slower because it's following the feed rate. So it's going to give you just a more realistic view as far as proportional in the actual time, the speed that the machine is running at. Notice over here too that it is actually giving me the time. So just another mode that you can use to render your part and look at it in Machine Sim. And another Machine Sim enhancement is metallic rendering. So you can actually like in this case, in my sim op, I gave it titanium. And then when you go sim, you'll get something that looks like this. And I think for sake of time, I'm going to skip showing you that because it will just look just like this. So trust me. And we'll try to move on because I don't want to run out of time for the rest of what I've got to cover here. One thing we're going to mention now, which is new, is a GibbsCAM Viewer. So first off, if this is something that you think you're interested, please contact your GibbsCAM reseller, and they will take care of you on that. So basically, the GibbsCAM Viewer is GibbsCAM. So it's just full industrial GibbsCAM with some things that are turned off. And the whole idea is to have a seat, say, out at your different machines, so your programmers, or if you have a programming office, that's not your programmers, but your actually operators, can see as much as what you did in Gibbs without getting in and changing anything on you. So you're still doing your programming and all in your full version, but it's designed for viewing and reviewing of the finished part files. So you can't save, you can't export, you can't create a toolpath, you can't post. You can't edit the processes and redo. You can't do any of that. And there's a reason for that. So because we don't want them to be able to, change what you've done. But they can look at the parameters, what feed did they put in here, or what kind of lead-ins did they use. You can run the sim to see what it did. You can use the reporters. You can do measurement and dimensioning. So it's still a useful tool. So again, it's setup sheets are nice, and whatever you use to communicate how you've set this up and program this part to your operators. But with a viewer, they can actually see what you did in GibbsCAM, and especially with sim, and see where your fixturing is and all that. So it's a great tool for that, and I believe that's available now. So again, if you're interested, please contact your GibbsCAM reseller for that. All right, we're going to look at a couple turning enhancements. So we have a new interactive mode for variable B-axis. So if any of you have done this type of turning, you know that dealing with the vectors, drawing your line segments and all, this is just not fun. Let's just be honest. It gets the job done, but often, especially when you have to go back and edit, you want to modify it. It's very difficult. So now we can add control points along the cut path, and we can change the tool angle on the fly. And we don't need the vectors anymore. But if you do have the vectors, which is what I'm going to show you, you can actually convert it to interactive and go from there and use it interactive. So you don't have to start over. So let's take a quick look at that. So you notice right away when in 2026, now this is a legacy, so this is one from an older 25 or older. So it still used the vectors, but as soon as I loaded the process, I've already got some feedback that I never had before. And then if we have to, we can click this Make Interactive button, and that converts the vectors and all to interactive, and then I can edit. So the yellow one is my active one, and I can skip through to other like this one here. I can drag this where I want, or maybe I want to put an exact value in, that's 65. I can move this along the feature it's assigned to, either by dragging or giving it an actual percentage. If I want to add a vector, again, without drawing anything, I can hit my control button and actually pick a point and add one. And I might say, hey, I want this one to be at 90 degrees. And I want to move it over a little, and that's where I want it. Okay, so hard to disagree. This isn't much easier than dealing with drawing vectors and all. When you're starting a new part, it'll give you a start with 2 points. So, the minimum requirements for this have always been you need one at the start and you need one at the end, and that's what it'll give you. But again, you just control click and just add the points where you want to add more. This is going to be a huge time saving over trying to draw all those vectors. And for those of you not familiar with this type, then I can just show you an op-sim what this looks like. So we're basically having the tool follow those angles that we specified. Okay, the next one is just a mention move tool group. If you've had to deal with this, you'll get what this does for you. If you haven't had to deal with it, then it's probably not going to matter that much to you. But currently, basically the move tool group doesn't have subposition control. So, like in a lathe contour, you have a rotate tab, and that picture over on the right, you're able to control your orientation. But then if you need to do a move tool group with that tool, then as soon as you do that, you lose that override. And so now basically the move tool group utility allows you to maintain that or change it if you want, but at least control it. And that's the main thing. Okay, this next one is another one that, again, no special button, nothing you have to do. It just works. So if anyone's doing things like prime turning, these inserts have a lot of surface area. They can do a lot more than a standard insert. And prior to 2026, we were being a bit conservative, maybe treating them more like a standard insert in our calculations. So, basically, previous versions are on the left, that's all it would calculate, and on the right, you see that we get a lot more material out. Again, to save time, I won't show you that one. I do have one, but all you have to do is open what you would have in previous version, hit the redo button, and it takes care of it. So there's nothing to do except to redo. It's automatic. All right, let's look at some milling enhancements. This is a good one. I've shown this at some shows and rollouts, and everyone is very interested in this. So we've added a new Deburr chamfer process, if you will, to the contour process. So it will automatically find edges, or you can select them. It supports spherical, roundover, and taper tools at this point. And what I really like is we have auto sorting of the links as well as contact point control and taper tool. So the auto sort is really nice. And I'm hoping perhaps that could populate to other portions of the product now that we've got that. So let me show you this real quickly. So I'll open up an existing process. So again, it's in the contour, but now we have an additional, we have offset contour engraving like we've had, but now we've added Deburr chamfer. So some of these settings will be the same, but you notice we have some specific items here for the Deburr chamfer. So these slopes and normal angles will help control when you've got something that aren't just real flat, that like here, it'll handle 3D shapes, and how much of it will handle and all depends on those settings. It will gouge check, so you have a constraint clearance. And then you can specify your depth by either like a wall depth or an edge depth. Contact point is only valid for, like, I believe, taper tools. So we may want to see about graying that out when I don't have a taper tool. But I basically give it the cut depth. And this value here I use for like where do I want to start finding edges from. So I have the solid selected, the entire solid. Just click on a redo, and you can see it just finds all the sharp edges and does it for me. I have it set to nearest next, so it's going to sort these in a more logical order instead of jumping all over the place. So you can also sort in horizontal, vertical, or if you're selecting edges, the order you select them in, if you want to be real particular, is the order it'll cut them in. So basically what we have here is it going and breaking all the edges in a very logical fashion. Okay, so now what we can also do is here I am using like a chamfer tool, paper tool. So here, instead of grabbing the whole solid, I'm just going to pick this edge, and it's automatically going to know how far it can get in there because there's no way you can get all the way in. It'll gouge check the model automatically, just get what it can. And because I want to get farther, as far in as I can, I want to control my contact point. So I've got like 6 millimeters to deal with. So I've got it 4. I could have gone deeper. In this case, the deeper I go, the more I'm going to get into that corner. So you can see now it's cutting on the portion of the tool that I've asked for, the 4 millimeters. And put a nice chamfer on that edge. And then when it gets here, it gets as far as it can without gouging my part, and then it gets itself safely out of there. Okay. That's exactly what I would expect. So this is a very great new feature. We all know that, man, we take hours maybe to program a part, but then it takes us maybe just as long to, if we have to do a bunch of edge breaking. And this will help solve a lot of that and really cut down on the time it's going to take to deburr your part. So this is a great new feature. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about Advanced 3D 2.0. So this is actually a huge thing. This is the most involved thing in 2026. Unfortunately, right now it's not really ready. It's in there. You can use it, but any of you that do plenty of advanced 3D work, I would just caution you to be careful and to make sure you still have your previous version. And as we keep moving forward, our dev team is working hard on this to keep advancing this and cleaning things up. So we basically knew that we had to replace the existing Toolpath engine with some new updated technology. Those of you that have been using Advanced 3D for quite some time know that it's been a long time since you've seen any changes, and that's not a good situation to be in. So you see some of the history here. We started with Solid Surfacer, and then Advanced 3D came in 2009, but you know, it's been quite a while since that's advanced any. At the time, it was great technology, but of course, technology advances, and we need to also. So this is why we're doing it. We'll get faster tool paths. It's easier to use. It should be easier to get what you want on the first try. And this last bullet is really the most important thing, is that we've had no significant like fixes, enhancements for long periods. And with this new engine, that's going to be just the opposite. We expect once we get this settled in, then we're going to see every version. Hopefully we'll have something that's new, and it'll keep getting better and better. So it's basically going to give us a better future when it comes to the advanced 3D, and that's very important. So some of the visible changes you will see right now, you're not necessarily, because we're still in, again, the hardest part of this was to make this legacy compatible. So open up an existing advanced 3D, have the system automatically map the fields in the correct value to where it would work correctly with the new engine. Our dev team knew that was going to be a difficult task, but it's actually proven to be even more difficult. So it's moving along, but you will, for instance, you should not see more remove spikes, optimize Z level. Those of you that use this know what I'm talking about. Currently, you will see a remove spikes, but I think my guess is we're waiting till we know everything's in and the way it's working before we start taking things out. But ultimately, things like remove spikes will go away. You'll have better hit flats behavior. Boundaries are no longer strictly required. The old engine was, boundary driven. The new stuff is not, although you can use one, obviously, if you want to. Better rest material that works more like the rest of GibbsCAM. Pocket and pocket with core detection is all combined now. Okay, adaptive step down is replaced by a more sophisticated wall cleanup function. Min-max step over and pocketing, that's constant step over. And the linking will be like those of you who use this know the linking in the pre-26 advanced 3D was more complicated. There was more options, and sometimes you weren't sure which option would give you what you want. So all this is going to be simplified. So this is all a great thing, but and moving forward, we've already got plans for 27 and beyond. We're going to add images, which is like those of you who use our 5-axis, which will be helpful in more strategies. And then we want your feedback too. Dev has asked for that, hey, tell us, be honest, I've used advanced 3D for years. This is what I don't like about it, because now we have the ability to make changes. So this is going to be a good thing moving forward. But again, just in a current state, I just ask that you please be careful and be patient, and we will get this all going in the direction it needs to in short time, I hope. Before we close up, I just want to run through a few 5-axis enhancements. There's a new wall finishing. So you basically pick the floor, and it uses that to create the toolpath instead of all the wall data. So it can make just a cleaner toolpath for you. For rotary, we have some containment trimming now. You can use containment curves like you can use in other parts of the software. And we can now have a separate cone angle and tool angle, which before they were kind of together. So this gives you more flexibility. For instance, like in this picture of cutting with the front of the tool instead of it being normal to the floor. Deburr, again, this continues to change, and I know I've had, through support and all, a lot of times people will come back to me and say, hey, well, I deburred it in this version now, and I did it here, it looks a little different. Well, unfortunately, that's kind of the nature of the beast, is because they keep improving deburr. So what you're seeing is actually should be improved behavior, even though it may be a little different than you're used to. So you'll just have to keep that in mind as you're using this, but they're doing a better job of smarter 3+2 behavior. This automatic direction is designed for the case more where you have intersecting holes, and it would split the toolpath up instead of doing one nice all around, combining tip cut and then undercut. all in one smooth motion. So that's been fixed by adding this automatic machining direction mode. With MultiBlade, there's been quite a few enhancements, a lot more feed rate control on the different portions of the toolpath, extended tool support for blade finishing. So this is a biggie. We can now use flat end, bullnose, and tapered version of these. There's some particular customers that'll be happy because at one time we used bullnose, and then it was decided that, well, you know what, they really shouldn't have because the technology isn't there yet, so they took it away. So some people were actually using them, and that didn't go over too well. So now all that's back and more. So that's a big change. And there's a new edge finishing command. So sometimes when you're doing impellers and after you've finished the blades, because those leading edges are so thin, you often get scallops on there. So now there's a new strategy to just go over that in the opposite direction and clean those scallops up. This is another big one, Autotilt. Autotilt's very powerful. It's gotten better year after year after year. So instead of doing more complex gouge checking and tilting, Autotilt often does what you need automatically, and it's a lot simpler. The problem was it only supported bullnose. So now we can, ball nose. So now it supports bullnose. We also have a new tilt tool and user-defined plane function. So those of you who use 5-axis, you know, you have a very long list of your tilting options. And so now we're adding in another one to that, tilting into plane. And the same thing with clearance areas. So instead of just a cylinder or a plane or a sphere, you can actually, as you see in the left there, you can actually take a surface and you can say, this is my retract area. So if you have like a large aircraft part or something, your retract time and the distance will be shortened if you have a nice surface up there that makes more sense to send your retracts to. So that's another new option. All right, so I think I squeezed everything in. And all right, well, I just thank you again for taking this time out in your busy schedule, and I hope this gives you a good intro to all, not all, but many of the new features in GibbsCAM 2026, and we look forward to our continue working together. And thank you very much, everyone.